Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So as promised, the Maxwell documents have dropped, the new documents from her second deposition that she was forced to sit for because she was so defensive and evasive in the first deposition. Here's what we know now. She denied ever witnessing or being aware of Epstein having any sexual interaction with anyone other than herself. And then she mentions apparently a couple of other people, but those names are redacted. And it's safe to assume that she's talking about adults because she absolutely still will not admit that anything illegal took place. When she was asked to review a list of names, she basically gave away her game. And here's what I mean by that. She repeatedly stated throughout the deposition that she only recognized Virginia Roberts Gouffre's name and two other people whose names were redacted in the transcript. However, after they questioned her multiple times and try various tactics and question her in different ways, Maxwell states in part, quote, "You could put any names in front of me. I wouldn't recognize them. I don't know them." So that's an odd thing to say. You could put any names in front of me and I wouldn't recognize them? Isn't she basically admitting that she's just not going to admit that she knows anyone other than obviously people that are so blatantly obvious, like Virginia Roberts Gouffre, that she can't possibly say she doesn't know her? And she tried to say in the deposition that she barely remembers Gouffre, even though there are dozens of photos showing that they traveled all over the world together. And that's a story that I'm going to bring you in the next couple of days. She actually tried to dismiss Gouffre as someone who she casually interacted with only to say hello, or, somebody that you might ask if they want a glass of water, from time to time in passing, basically. And Maxwell repeatedly stated that she would barely remember Gouffre at all if it weren't for this defamation case. It was also very clear from the number of times that her attorney objected or tried to interrupt that he didn't want her to perjure herself. He continually stopped the line of questioning and stated that Maxwell had already answered the question in the previous deposition. He kept saying that he was interrupting because it was just taking too long and this was information that they had already gone over and it's just wasting her time. She already sat for a 7-hour deposition. But his interruptions took far more time than if he had just allowed her to answer. So it led me to believe in reading it that he was afraid she was going to contradict herself, because it's easy to remember the truth. The truth is always the truth. But if you're lying, you might not remember what the lie was that you gave in the last deposition. Now, this is just my assumption, but I believe I'm right. And Maxwell did lie in this deposition based on written evidence that's been publicly released. And I've talked about it before. So on page 33 of these new documents, Maxwell is asked if she had had any form of communication with Jeffrey Epstein since Gouffre filed the defamation lawsuit. She repeatedly stated that she had no communication with Epstein since the inception of the lawsuit, which is unequivocally false. And Gouffre's attorney said, I'm asking, not just about phone calls, not just verbal communication, but also written, email. They made it very clear. And she denied ever having contact with him after the lawsuit had been filed. That is absolutely untrue. There are emails between Maxwell and Epstein, to and from Maxwell and Epstein, specifically discussing this case and how Maxwell should handle it. He's giving her advice on how to handle this defamation case. Then another interaction that stood out was when Gouffre's attorney asked Maxwell to look at a list of names to see if she recognized them. So Maxwell stated that she recognized all of the people on the list, and then she was asked if any of the people on that list received massages at one of Epstein's properties. So when they asked her that, did any of these people receive a massage at any of Epstein's properties, she kept repeating the same answer, I couldn't say. And they'd ask her in another way, and she'd say, I couldn't say, I couldn't say. And so they finally said, what does that mean? Are you saying you couldn't say because you don't want to say, or you don't know? And she said, no, I don't know. And then she went on to say, quote, these are events that took place 17 years ago, and I really do not know. So again, that's an odd way to answer that question. She didn't say, I met these people 17 years ago. She said these events took place 17 years ago. What events? And if she has no knowledge of them receiving massages at Epstein's properties, how would she know that they took place 17 years ago? If you say, no, I have no idea if that person got a massage at Epstein's property, they could have gotten a massage at Epstein's property 5 years ago, 10 years ago. There's also a disturbing passage in which Maxwell is asked if she remembers someone crying and being very distraught. And then she's asked if she ever took the passport of someone who complained to her that Epstein had demanded sex. Of course, she denies all of this. She says she has no memory of any person crying and being upset. She was also asked a series of questions regarding attorney Alan Dershowitz, who, as you probably know, has been accused of having sex with Virginia Roberts Giuffre when she was underage. Maxwell confirms that she was likely in the presence of Dershowitz at Epstein's Palm Beach home. And then she has general recollections of being around him. And she said that she definitely remembered Dershowitz being on Epstein's island with her. However, she alleges that when Dershowitz was there, he was accompanied by his wife and daughter, and she only remembers it because she was down on the beach using a metal detector and she was talking to him about metal detectors. Okay. Other than that, all other pertinent information in the document is redacted. It really was a complete and total letdown, I have to say, overall, other than the fact that she clearly perjured herself. That's about the only substantial information that we learned from this new document. And it also appears, based on information shared in other publications, that Maxwell is asked about Epstein accuser Maria Farmer and her sister. Epstein allegedly assaulted both Maria and her sister. And the reason that it appears to be them is because Maxwell is asked about an interaction with multiple people in Ohio, and one is mentioned as an artist, which would be Maria. So not much new learned here, guys. A couple of other depositions were released from people who worked for Epstein, and they just corroborate things that they've already stated in public and to journalists. So, but hopefully on the next round, we'll get more information. I will keep you posted as always. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I will talk with you soon. Take care.